Brakken, I feel like my girlfriend just broke up with me.
Okay. Does Jess know about this?
This is a hypothetical girlfriend that isn't a girl at all. But a relationship that I've had for the last 4 to 5 years is no longer. It has come to an end today. And I'm hurt.
Really?
Yeah,
Is
do you,
this, can I take a guess?
yes.
Is this something that you talked to me about momentarily on Saturday?
No, but it's something I talked to you about on the phone call a few hours ago.
Oh, well, then I have no clue. I wasn't paying attention.
I officially got kicked off of my local track for
Oh,
good.
that's right. Okay.
And it
Well,
actually has emotionally made me pretty sad and a little angry.
I'm gonna set the stage for you because people are gonna be like, yeah, welcome to the club, bub. But you live in a small town with one track.
There's nothing. I mean, this is a half an hour out of my way inconvenience now if I want to find one.
That's a nightmare. I just want to preface this. Can you see my eyes?
Yeah, you look like you are like allergies or something.
Yeah. Toby,
Or you're
our
a little
bunny,
fried right now.
who I'm allergic to, had a vet appointment today, and I volunteered to get him into his cage because it's a nightmare. But then he holds it against Lisa. I'm just gonna go like this for a while. Then he holds it against Lisa if uh if she's the one who has to. But I was just like all over the floor, all up in his business, and he's shedding right now. And now I'm just like
Mm.
rabbit dander. Is that a thing? Rabbit pollen is what it is.
Yeah, it's definitely rabbit pollen.
So I'm gonna be a mess. I'm gonna be a little nasally today.
Yeah, your eyes look real bloodshot, like you got into some weird brownies.
Yeah. Anyway, my problems are now done. Let's get back to yours because they matter way more.
Well, that's not true, but I just wanted to vent a little because I moved here in 2021. I'm on my 5th year living here, and we have a local track in which I have had zero problems the first 4 years. I don't have to hop a fence. There's always a way to get in. Not one comment. And this year has been riddled with issues. And today marks the day it all came to an end. And it's sad because I've developed like a lot of my run fitness on this track and I got a soft spot for it. And I love the community. And I got a bitter taste in my mouth. It's like she not only dumped me, but not in a nice way. Right? It
Yeah.
was like mean about it.
It's
And
not
so
me,
now
it's you.
they said I was the problem. That was the
Yeah.
exact thing out of his mouth. And so I'm a little bit now I don't know what to do. What do I do?
You don't do anything. There's nothing you can do. If you're not wanted in a relationship, you don't keep going back. One of two things happen. This is either a new admin or community members started complaining. That's all it
Yeah.
is.
It's probably it. I was told during the school year, somebody said, "Hey, you can't be here during school. When school's out for the summer or after school is done for the day, you're welcome to use the track." That was the last conversation I had, but you need to leave right now. And that was the shirt off incident as well, where I had my shirt off, said, "You got to get out of here, distracting. And also, can you not come during school hours?" Meanwhile, there's like soccer moms walking the track. I drive by in the middle of the day and there's moms on it right now, like walking in the 8th lane in the wrong direction. Right. And so it's a little perplexing. So those were a couple interactions. Then today it was, I walked in there to do it and they met me right at the gate with force. Like they said, next time that guy's here, you kick him off. It was very stern. They weren't budging. They made me leave with my tail between my legs.
Yeah, that's not great. It's a pet peeve of mine when there's a community track that they deem private. I don't care how the money was sourced. It's better for the community to have the track open. And like unfailingly, the argument is, well, we don't want the track damaged. You know how much this track cost? We need to keep this in good condition so our kids can use it. It's like your kids run on this in metal spikes.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what this track's designed for. Your football team runs back and forth across it every practicing game in cleats. Your cheerleaders are stacking people on each other's shoulders and jumping around. You're driving golf carts and gators on it during football and soccer games. Like,
Constantly.
do not tell me that a community member jogging around the track is going to damage your multi-million-dollar facility, because it's quite literally being used in the way it was designed to be used.
Yeah, I even pulled out, like I said, all right, I had sunglasses on. I said, I want to look him in the eyes. I pulled my sunglasses down and I didn't just leave. I started talking back a little bit calmly, but I was like, it's my 5th year here and this is the first year I'm having issues. And I said, I'm going to say what doesn't need to be said, but I live down the street. I pay taxes in this town and my kids are going to go here someday. And so it's a bitter taste to be kicked off when I cheer the students on who run by me. I ask the coaches, is it all right if anybody's around, if I use the track? I always get a yes. I'm a good influence on the kids there. Nice job, buddy. If anybody's doing anything, it's not like I'm a creepy guy sitting there doing something I shouldn't. I'm who you would want on the track. And so it's like I've done everything right. It's not like this guy's a bad egg, he's got to go. It was like, no, I've been the opposite of that. So that's why it's like, it's not you, it's me. I think it's what it is.
Well, it
That's
is.
all.
Oh, it's too bad it's summer. Like, summer. There's no kids. And I would try shaving your mustache and going back and see what happens.
There, never thought of that, but that's probably exactly it. It could be just that. Yeah.
Yeah. That tripped a silent alarm the moment that mustache crossed the threshold of the track.
Didn't even think about that. All right, we can move on.
It's disappointing, especially when you have one option. Like, we have Wisconsin Lutheran track here, which is locked. And I used to hop the fence to work out there. And I knew if I get kicked off here, it's my fault. But I have West Dallas Hale. I have Wauwatosa East High School. I have Marquette University
Are those
High
open
School.
to you? You've never had issues there?
Hale is not, but I taught in district for so long, I don't feel bad just like going there and being like, listen, I built this track. But Tosa East, the Hart Park track, is encouraged for community members, and it's an awesome facility. They have a turf field and everything. Like, they have something that could be damaged. But no, it's I have options. My point is, small town, if you lose your one track, you're out of luck, bub.
Yeah, I walked through open gates to walk in there. It wasn't like, she was
the worst
locked
one.
Right. Oh,
before we move on, the worst one I had is I got kicked out of the off-running bleachers at the high school that I was actively teaching and coaching at, while running the bleachers with the team I was in season coaching.
Who kicked you off? Like, who was the authority that kicked you off?
The head custodian and groundskeeper.
Well, my grandfather would be proud because he was the head custodian of the Green Bay Public Schools, and he was not a janitor. He was a custodian.
He'd be proud of me for saying lead custodian, but he would not be proud of that man for wielding his authority where it didn't need to be wielded. Do you know what the explanation was, Kirk?
Oh gosh, probably a liability would probably be unsafe. What was it?
We loosen up the bolts and then he has to go through and retighten them every year.
What happens when people fill the stadium for events?
I said, have you seen the crowds you guys get for football? Because they're a powerhouse. I said, you have 500 people in this section alone who average 280. These 15 prepubescent high school boys running stairs are not going to put any more stress on your bleachers than several tons of community members cheering a football game.
Did you say that to him, or did you want to say that to him and thought of it afterwards?
No. This was a conversation. I said, what are you really thinking that this team is what's loosening the bolts on this thing?
The thing is, starting to argue back, and I found that today, it's like, it's only going to make it worse, by the way. It doesn't help. And like, it's done. So we really should just shut up and leave, but that bothered you, and it wasn't logical, right? And the same for me today.
He pulled up on his John Deere tractor and yelled at me in front of the team to get the you-know-what off his bleachers. These are not your bleachers. And I'm coaching. I'm being paid by your boss to be here on this facility right now.
So did you stop?
That day I did. I'm not going to be a bad example in front of the kids, but then we went and set up a meeting with him and the admin to say, listen, here's the reality of this.
Hmm.
Unless you're kicking the football team off the bleachers as well in fall, which no, you're not, then
Hmm.
our little shrimpy runners can run the bleachers and it's going to be just fine. And if you want, I will happily join you in spring and I will tighten these bolts with you.
See, that's you found a solution to a problem.
He would never let us near his his bolts.
Okay. I have
Anyway,
a hard time.
that was my biggest issue right there.
I have a hard time not reacting. I'm a pretty like even guy actually. I don't know what maybe the audience thinks or their impression, but it takes quite a bit to get a real rise out of me, like a true rise. I do it sometimes just to be for fun, but like to actually make me angry and then spit back, it takes a good bit. And I was on the cusp today. I was on the cusp, but that only makes it worse. That's running salt in a wound. That doesn't help.
Especially
It
if your
hurts.
future kids are indeed going to go to this school.
Yeah. All right. So let's move on. Anything? Hey, we saw each other this weekend. Brakken
did.
and I got a nice 12-mile run in on the Milwaukee lakefront. It was actually really lovely, and I enjoyed my time with you, Brakken. It was nice to see you.
Yeah, I wish I could say the same. It was nice to see you. Full stop.
Well, if you had to elaborate, what would come after that?
It was not a nice time. I had a horrific experience
No,
with
you
you.
did not. You were chatty. You seemed to be enjoying yourself.
There is no correlation between my mouth moving and my enjoyment. I would be chatting up the fellow inmates while being intaken into the prison population.
Okay.
Doesn't mean I'm having a great time there.
Yeah, but when you're truly miserable on a run, even the chattiest get internal eventually.
It wasn't the worst run. I had a great time for 8 or 9 miles.
It was the end.
But that's the thing you remember last. Do you know that for the rest of the day, every time I tried to do something, I got my forehead and like cheeks broke out in sweat. It was like
Yeah.
that post really hard long race. I've done too much in the heat thing.
Yeah,
I had that
yeah.
after
It
that
was
run.
warm. Do you know that I walked 6.5 miles in flip flops around Milwaukee after that with my buddies?
I did
I
not know
was
that.
stupid.
I would have got a
And,
scooter.
yeah, we should have. Well, hopefully, if you had a good week last week of training, and so now we got you're launching into the fitness future.
Well, then the next day we had karting, so I had to stay active there. So I kept the worst of the DOMs out. Yesterday I did a double LT session on the ergs. I have a new skier, Kirk. You didn't get to stop by and see her while you're in town, but brand new. And then today I played a little light morning basketball and my back held up through all of it. So you cured me is what I'm going to go with.
Yeah, definitely is definitely. I'm the common
Just needed a
denominator
little
here.
injection of Kirk.
I don't like that phrase. You left the house at the Airbnb we were staying at. My buddy's like, I like that guy. He seemed pretty friendly and normal and nice. I was like, yeah, he's a good dude.
You
That
can
was it.
fake it for one interaction.
Yeah, he fake it. His shorts were a little short, they said, but other than that, it seemed all right.
Shorts are real short.
Yeah. All right. Any I guess that we get I feel like I vented. I feel like I'm in a good place now. I don't want you to fix my problems. I just want you to hear about them.
Can't fix
And
that problem.
That's been done. Should we dive into the topic?
Hard pivot. You set it up. This is your idea today, Kirk.
Well, a couple of things spurred this idea, and I feel like this could be a 3-hour episode. It really could, because there's how many directions could we take this? But we're gonna make it about 50 to 60 minutes from now, and then we're gonna cut it. So we're gonna hit the lowest hanging fruit. We've been talking about my training and my workouts, and then that spawned a couple conversations, a conversation with Tyler German, me and you chatting it out. And as a coach, many coaches have coaches, first of all. It's not uncommon. I am one who is self-coached, and so are you, so I coach myself. And really what we've been doing is discussing my own self-coaching for a couple of episodes. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
In a sense, right? Sorting through your own self-coaching. And then I just read an email today from an athlete who's building to an ultra. He's planning to take a break after, which is sometimes common, right? They just want some unstructured training or a deload. And it's about I don't know, maybe the 5th person in the last year or two who said, you should really do a coaching mentorship. Like, don't worry, I'm not looking to challenge you and be competition, but it would be helpful to learn about the coaching side of things and how to even start as far as programming goes. And after that email and then chatting out what we have the last few weeks, I thought we should probably tell people how we look at self-coaching, how we think about it, and offer suggestions. So that
Mhm.
is the idea today, how to self-coach.
And I do like the idea of actually holding a course for just going through specific faceless athletes of how you read
Mm-hmm.
them and how you respond to things. I do like that. I think that has some legs. But where I start with coaching yourself is that try as we might, our greatest issue will always be ourselves. Our bias, our blinders that we have on, our inability to remove ourselves and be truly objective is always going to be the problem. We will get in our own way the most when you are self coached. That is, I don't think that's up for debate. I think the self coached athlete is always going to be their own biggest obstacle, but you can minimize how much you get in your own way through foresight and through having a good, at least one set of ears to bounce things off of. And I think right from the start, you need to, like any great study, you need to acknowledge your pre-existing bias first to try to get ahead of it. I think you have to treat yourself like a stranger and decide right from the start, what do you struggle with? What will I struggle with working with you on? And how do we get ahead of that from day one? Because otherwise, you're going to waste weeks, months, years at some point before you run into that idea of, I've been getting in my own way.
Well, there is two ways to look at that. I agree with you, by the way, 100% with what you just said about you probably being your own biggest hurdle in this
Yeah,
process. Personal biases, too close to the picture to even see the whole thing, right? Like, at the same time, like nobody knows you and how you feel after, during, before certain workouts and sessions and what you felt responding to in the past. And so I think there's a sector of people who I think it's smaller than the sector who probably end up messing it up. But I do think there's a sector of people who, like, you don't know, how would your coach know you better than you? And
correct.
some people die on that rock, of course, and to their own demise. But I think if it's done right and it doesn't happen, I would say month one or year one or year two, might be 10, you can get
Yeah.
dialed in. But in the beginning, it's generally more of getting out of your own way than anything.
Yeah. I would say that you have to identify what your goal really is. I do not believe that without a coach and team, what team looks like is different depending on the individual and the sport and the goal. But without a coach and a team, you cannot get to 100% of your potential. I feel very confident saying that. But depending on the individual, you can get upper 90s. And for most of us, mid to upper 90s is almost indistinguishable from 100. So if that's okay with you, then I fully support it. And I've been self coached since college. So I obviously supported getting to, I always told myself I could get to like 95 to 98%. And I'm an optimist. So I always thought I could get like 98% of the way there on my own. And I'd rely on people to get as close to that. But I knew I will never get 100%. But 100% for me was never going to lead to something life changing. So for me, that deal was okay. I can make that deal. That's fine with me. But I think you need to really be sure that, like, if you're trying to qualify for an Olympic team or Olympic trials or win a world championship, self coached is not the way to go.
Yeah, and even I find myself sometimes like looking and comparing. You go, wow, a woman just ran 13:58 in a 5K. Uh, Yikes! And the world record for the men is in the 12:30s. Is that correct? 12:37, 12:39, something like that. The 1500 guys are all running 3:27 to 3:30 now. And you say, like, that's impossible. It's beyond me. How does one even remotely get close? It's so fast, it's unfathomable.
Yeah.
But then I think back into college and always having somebody to chase or be followed by, always having an exact purpose with a squad every single day. And what even that low grade culture compared to whatever the pros are experiencing is, I took 18 seconds off my mile time in a year from a senior in high school to a freshman in college, something astronomical.
Mhm.
That wouldn't have happened if I stayed at my high school and trained at my own because I was our best runner, etc. And so, point being is that there is a power that you will never understand if you haven't run with an elite club
Mhm.
with an elite coach. I can't imagine.
Correct.
What do you think it would take? Let's say, and just ballpark me, barring health, you run with an elite club with purposeful coaching in a group most days. Let's say you're a 17-minute self-coached 5Ker. A year later, what's possible?
I mean, the first thing that pops in my head is 16:30.
30 seconds probably right there.
Yeah.
I agree. Maybe more.
Yeah.
Even if on paper it almost looks identical to what you've been doing yourself, which is funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I would say that, not without getting too far down the rabbit hole, running workouts with a group can be every bit as beneficial as having the workouts programmed by a coach. For some people, it also is the thing that's going to get you injured. But the power of a group, of a support system, really can't be overlooked. But we still believe you can get upper 90% of the way there by yourself. And so this is for those, like, I know I'm starting out with a cautionary thing, like make sure it's for you, but definitely make sure it's for you. But if you don't have the obvious red flags, the serial overtrainer, the ADD athlete who just can't stick to a workout and gets partway to it or during the warm up and has to flip the workout every time, like people who get a new idea each week or month on what they really should be doing in training. Like if you're that type of person, do not self-coach yourself. Or maybe don't subject someone to having to work with you. But if you don't have the obvious red flags, it is worth exploring self-coaching if you're curious. So this episode's for how to do that.
Well, I think most people are self-coached that are listening to this. That's the majority of those out there.
Yeah, but I think most people are self-exercising or just self-running. Sitting and treating it like a coach to an athlete's a little different. Like, are you telling yourself what to run each day, or do you have like an 18-week block you're following? I think there's a little difference in that, and sitting down and doing post-race analysis, like treating it like a coaching thing, or just treating it like I decide my workouts, because I believe there is a true difference.
Yeah, I think most of our listeners are exercising as well. I think most people who think they're training are exercising. I think that's probably the biggest jump you'd see by hiring a coach. But we're not talking about that. So, where do we start if we are self-coached and want to be as effective as possible? You have something you want to say?
No, I was just waiting to see, because this is the big question for a lot of you. Where do I even begin with this process?
I think two things before anything should be decided upon, barring health, meaning you're not dealing with any injury or anything currently. You first decide, and you stick with this vehemently unless there's a reason not to, is you decide on number of days per week you are going to run without fail, and you decide on general time on foot or run volume that you believe is reasonable and will move the needle without overcooking you first. You just step back and you look at those two blanket pieces of metrics. How many days a week am I running? What seems healthy and reasonable for me right now? And what should my weekly volume be? Deciding on those instead of loosely approaching every week. And then, I ended up at 20 miles this week. But then next week, my friends, and then I got 31. And then this week was 11 because I had a vacation. And then this next week is back to 41. But then my knee's starting to hurt now because you understand what I'm saying. So first things first, simple. Those two things, in my opinion, starting there.
I'm happy with that. I'm happy with deciding. I think you always err on the side of consistency, because you don't have an actual outside coach helping you. You need the least amount of disruptions as possible, because you can't just say, hey, coach, this is what happened. What should I do? Like, that's you. You have to be in charge of it. And so limit the variables of the things that can go wrong. So coming up with this is the ironclad baseline to what I do. I'm going to run this many times per week. I'm going to try to hit roughly this volume per week. And I know that is repeatable until the end of time, as long as I modulate my fatigue throughout this. I think understanding that, whether that's priority 1 for me or not, it's top 3. So yeah, but that is super important.
It's just easy to not get done what needs to get done or be a little lax because you had too much fun on a Saturday night and didn't get your Sunday morning run in, but that's okay. I'll clean it up next week or whatever it is. And those standards matter. And chips are taken away from your fitness when you don't hit your standards that are set. And it can be a range, right? A weekly mileage or run range. I run 5 or 6 days a week, and I run between 35 and 40 miles a week. And I plan my week accordingly to get there. Simple as that, first of all.
Yeah.
Okay. How do you know what your volume should be? That's a tricky one. We don't make big jumps. We make small jumps and we sit there for a bit before we make the next one to make sure that we can handle it. I think a good starting place, if you're self-coached, I think there's 4 day a week minimum, in my opinion, as long as you have health. I don't think anybody needs to be a 7 day a week runner if your 6 are purposeful. So that would just be my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I like all that. I think that this is step one towards not making big mistakes.
Yeah. So let's say you are running races 60 minutes or under.
Okay.
60 minutes or under. Or should we extend it to a half marathon? That can get up to 2+ hours. So let's say 60-minute under races. What do you think general, like if you could build a shadow person with no attachment, give me their volume and their number of times per week to see consistent improvement?
I can't.
Just try.
I can't. But what I can say is that it has to be what you've been doing or one step ahead. That's where improvement comes from. So if you're a 4-day runner, you can't run less than 4. If you're a 40 mile per week person, you don't want to start out less than 40. Like assuming health where you're at, you don't want to drop down to 3 because you're starting something new. And then everything should be intended to be ramped up over time. But ideally, I think the biggest jump in training goes from 4 days a week to 5.
100%.
I think of all the numbers of times you can run per week, the biggest jump goes from 4 to 5, or comes from 4 to 5 days of running per week. At that point, that's where, like, if I could run only 5 times per week, I think I could get to 90% of my potential. Maybe higher.
5.
Maybe higher, depending on the event.
I may start running 6. We'll see.
If I was at 4, I would never be confident. If I got to 5, I'd be like, man, I got to game the system a bit here. But I'm confident I can be really fit off 5. I think that's the single biggest factor. I would even care about the number 5 more than I would care about the number of miles you hit that week. I truly believe that early on. I would want people to get to the point where they can run 5 days a week. If, again, performance is your goal.
I agree with that.
That's where I'd start. And with that, I think minimum 40 minutes a day. And now you start, let's just say you're going 8-minute miles, which isn't realistic for everyone, but then that's 5 miles a day. And now you're looking at, okay, that's 25 miles for the week. For me, 30 to 32 is kind of the minimum where I'd say you're moving fitness here. So if I just had to put numbers, you make one of those midweek long run and one of them a long run, you hit 30 to 32. So my thing is hit 5 days per week, hit 30 miles, and then everything else stems off that. But I don't like giving these answers, as you can tell, but
people
that's where I would
them.
start.
People need them. People have to start somewhere. And what we're saying isn't the objective truth. It's opinion. And this is an opinion-based podcast that's sometimes based on facts and sometimes not. And so, yeah.
So my opinion, 5 days, 30 miles per week is the entry level to like, we're training.
I was going to say 4 or 5 days a week and 30 to 40 miles if you're a 60-minute racer, which can be further than 10K. I think you're going to be in a pretty good place to start, sit there, see improvement, and earn the right to graduate to more volume eventually because you're running consistent enough to warrant it, right? So that's where I would start.
But next, I'm going to be picking a system. I'm not a system coach, and I say that on every onboarding call I ever do or every exploratory meeting I have with an athlete if they're interested in me coaching them. I say, I am not a system coach. I believe there are so many systems that work. I have a set of principles I believe in, and it's important to know what yours are. But especially if you don't, I think it's important to pick a system early on and to pick a safe, reliable system that's simple.
what you're referring to is, I guess this could be a system, but I got 10 workouts in a hat and I scramble them up and I pick one out and that's the one I do this week. I guess that could be a system, but you're referring to not just the like, I do this because I feel like it today. It's like I
Right.
have a plan, a purposeful progression based on some sort of system.
There's 80-20 training. There is 5-pace training theory. There is Norwegian double threshold training. There's threshold training. There is Jack Daniels style of training there. I mean, that doesn't matter to me truly which one calls to you and speaks to you, but finding one at the beginning, learning it and starting it is very important to me. And then as soon as you have that, you fill in your quality days, and then you start adding warm up and cool down to that, and your 30 goes to 40 just from warm up, cool down, and the volume of workouts and long runs. But I think it's important to, once you establish, well, how much do I think I can train? It's time to decide, how am I training? I don't think it's just good enough to go out and start. You have to have a reason for why you are running everything. Because if you don't have a reason for why you're running any sort of, as we call it, quality work, then you don't have reason to go easier on easy days. And the very, very quickest way to get in trouble, self-coached, is to start having aimless running. To be mixing your intensities into one big stew. That's not what you want. You want things in columns. And so figuring out how am I sorting my columns, to me, that is then the next step.
Okay. So basically deciding on frequency of running and general volume by the end of the week is my goal. And then deciding where and what are my hard days and what are my easy days, and having a big discrepancy between the two, correct?
Yeah. I'd probably flip the order of those two, but to me, you get to the same spot either way. I'd decide my system first, and then I'd use that to determine how many times per week am I running. Because some systems use bigger workouts than others. Some systems I could be convinced to be a 4-day-a-week trainer because the sessions are bigger and still hit 30 miles a week. Others, I'm going to want the frequency. But I think we're going to get to the same point either way. Because within a few weeks, you're going to sort out what's happening. But yeah, decide how much can I work and how frequently, and then decide how am I going to work.
I think most people don't even know like how do I pick something? I'm not even aware of what system or what I should pick or do. I think most people, if they're listening to this podcast, they probably say, okay, well, I picked up enough over the years. Like I'm going to do like one speed session a week, keep it vague. And I'm going to do one like longer grindier or threshold session a week. And that's what I'm going to do. Yeah. Is that a system?
No, It's not.
So
can it work? Yeah, but it's guesswork.
When we were in college,
you can probably do that.
I do that.
But you can't start with that.
Correct. Yeah. Correct.
You have to earn the right to wing it. Because you're winging it with parameters and rules and biofeedback and historical data. Then you're quote unquote winging it, but you're really not. You're making an informed choice based out of like 2 or 3 options, not based off of 30 options.
Yeah, and I think one of the big factors when you're self-coaching, do you remember like when you were part of a team and you were showing up to practice regularly and you were being coached a college program very tightly. You see your coach in person every day. You get feedback during a session. It's a very interactive process. At least it was for me. Like you're very engaged with the process. And how often did you show up? I did not
get feedback during and after a session, but the other parts were. I just want to be clear on that.
Okay. So point being, if you have a quality session on a Monday with the team, with your coach, but like you're kind of tired or you're still sore and achy from the weekend, whatever, what happens? Nothing. You show up, you warm up, you do the workout, right? So your feelings suddenly are taken out of consideration. Like it's what needs to be done and will be done today, regardless as to how you feel, correct? And I think that needs to be adopted a good bit by those who are self-prescribing initially. It's easy to push workouts back. It's easy to change the deal. It's easy to modify on the fly. And then this doesn't become what you intended it to become. Mm-hmm. Fatigue is normal. Having bad days is normal. Having good days we dream of is normal, but they're all normal. And so people often change the script because of how they feel at some point during the process. They have one bad workout. They have tired day, or they have a really good day and try to emulate what happened before that good day. When really, like, you almost have to step back from that and just have blind faith that whatever you've chosen will get you there. And it doesn't matter how you're feeling physically or emotionally going into these sessions. These are now the sessions. There's no negotiating
Mhm.
unless it's an extenuating circumstance, right? Injury, severe
Right.
illness, or something else. And so I think the change the deal portion of this happens, I think, way more than people would admit. And I think most people listening constantly juggle their sessions in week based on life or whatever. And I think that's the first thing that has to go if you really care about your results.
Yeah. I 100% agree with you. And that is why I believe it's so important to choose the script. And I think that it's so important to choose a half a notch to a notch below what you really believe you could sustain right now.
Hmm.
You need to build in wins and you need to build in room for, as the Joker would have said, aggressive upward expansion. Like you want to be able to take it and go with it, not have to retract. And now I'm pushing back a day already in week 2. And now I'm lowering volume in week 3. Like that's, you want to give yourself the ability to progress. You're fostering yourself as an athlete. If you brought a new athlete on, you wouldn't try to crack them in week 2. So why do that to
Correct.
yourself? So I think when you're choosing a system, let's say you don't know where to start. I'm actually going to do this right now, Kirk. It may disappear off screen. I'm not
Well,
sure.
here,
I'm
I
just
think
going to,
you should. I think you should help people by giving a few system examples, like more specifically. Is that what you're about to do?
yeah, I'm going to
Because
Google popular distance running training systems and see what pops up.
I'll be curious, like the first hit, like the first one or two.
I mean, it's not great. It's not great. All right, so here's one. Top 10 marathon training programs for runners. Now, we're not talking marathons, but I'm just going to see what the search results are. One, Hal Higdon's marathon training program. We all knew that was coming. Hal Higdon is the old standby. It's basically if you have nothing better to do, this is a great place to start. Jeff Galloway's run, walk, run method. Same kind of thing. If you have no background, you're not a runner, great place to start. Nike Run Club marathon training, Runner's World marathon training plan, Race ID miles, Hanson's marathon method. This is our first time we've seen something that is a system. Fitzinger's advanced marathoning, Barry P's 3-2 plan. Never heard of that. And then we get into a couple other things.
Are these
Anyway,
sponsored results?
this is on someone's webpage.
They
Anyways,
paying them off.
point being, if you just Google that,
Why isn't the running public on there?
you're no closer to success. So what Kirk and I have done over the years is immerse ourselves in the sport and read everything we can find, and then you stumble upon where to start. So I would say the same advice applies now that I always give, which is read 80-20 training by Matt Fitzgerald. I'm not saying read it and do the training plan in the back of the book. I'm saying read it and understand the relationship between aerobic running and anaerobic running and how to structure a week. From there, I think it's worth Googling the actual training systems that pros use. So do you want to go back and forth and name what we think are the systems we think are worth pursuing for the everyman?
I mean, sure. You say 80-20 running. I mean, that's a philosophy, not a system. Isn't that correct?
Correct. So
Though?
I think if you
Right.
understand that, then you understand a little bit more about what I want to do and how I need to integrate it, because some of these systems don't abide by that, or they kind of do, but you have room to self-program, and then you get off the rails quick because you're not following your set of principles. But
Well, you can go ahead. Part of me is like, I don't know how many people that are listening have probably read a running training systems book or have done any sort of like advanced research
Mhm.
which is probably most, which is okay. They listen to podcasts and they absorb via social media, right? And
Right.
they come across. And so, not that I want to push back on a system, but what if you created a set of rules that is sort of your choosing, your own, the Brakken Kraker system or your Kirk DeWindt system, and kept it in those confinements. An example of that might be, now I know I'm taking this sideways before getting into what you wanted to get into,
No,
but
this
like,
is the perfect example of why we're talking about this.
okay, well, it'd be like, for example, if I took somebody who basically has just been running for years, like they just run, they put their shoes on and they run. I've never done any real structured things with purpose, which is a lot of people, right? And that's where a lot of people start. And you say, okay, well, once a week, you're going to do some shorter intervals that are fast, and you're going to accumulate 15 to 20 minutes of those intervals. And that's going to be session one. And session two is going to be 20 to 40 minutes of longer, either steady, hard state work or longer intervals. And we're just going to, those are the confinements. I'm going to do 15 to 20 minutes of short, fast stuff once a week, and 20 to 40 minutes of longer, grindy stuff, and then hit my weekly mileage. And you take somebody who hasn't been on any sort of real purposeful plan, you say, if somebody told me that, I said, that's not a bad place to start. Like,
Correct.
without details in there, of course, which the details matter, but is that like a system?
No, it's not. And I would say that this is kind of illuminating the point I want to make, which
Oh,
is that that's not self-coaching. That's self-prescribing workouts. Yes. But where do you go
well,
from
they
there?
exist together.
They do, but they're not the same. The way when I say self-coaching,
You're muted right now for some reason. Yeah, I can't hear you. Nothing. I got nothing from you right now. You just went mute on me. There you go.
it's back.
Yeah, it's back.
I think my cord's damaged.
Oh, yeah, I can hear you now.
I'm gonna have to get a new cord. The one downside of this mic, we talked about it early on, is that people have connection problems with the pins on the back of this USB connector. It's micro USB, I believe,
Oh,
and it either works or it doesn't. And I think mine might be damaged now. Anyway, they make different connectors for it. I'm going to order one as soon as we're done with this because this is
okay.
not acceptable.
No, you're good. You're good. We're live.
Anyway, when I hear you start to describe that, immediately I think, would I pay someone to do that for me?
Hmm?
If I talked to someone and they said, I haven't read any running books and I haven't really learned a system, but I think if we just get 15 to 20 minutes of faster work with longer rest here, and then the next time out, a few days later, we do 30 to 40 minutes of steadier work, and we just do that for a while. I would say that sounds like a pretty good place to start for some people, but I'm not paying you for that coaching. And so I really think that this is where people start and this is where they finish, or they finish a skew off to the side. I think that from the start, there needs to be a plan in place for gaining knowledge. If you are a coach, as you well know, there's never a stop to the learning as a coach. You need to be thirsty for
That's for sure.
knowledge. You get stationary, you sink. And so I think that step one is, if you haven't read a book, no, you shouldn't be self-coaching. And I know that's very critical of me, but I believe that. You want to self-prescribe workouts, go for it. I think that's a great place to start. Like you said, 5K pace or faster, 15 to 20 minutes of work, boom. 10K to half marathon pace, 30 to 40 minutes of work, boom. Long run after that, fill in the week of volume. That's a great place to start, but it's not a training system. It doesn't tell you where to progress to. You don't know what comes next unless you're using that, let's say 8 to 12 weeks of doing that to read your face off and decide what are the principles that I'm going to follow after this. But I truly don't believe if you wouldn't pay for the coaching, you shouldn't give it to yourself.
I'm actually very glad you're bringing this up because it's easy to lump writing prescription and coaching into the same
Yeah.
thing. Like, a coach writes prescription, and that is true. But like, I feel underutilized by a whole sector of the athletes that hire me because the consulting back and forth process lacks, right? Like, yes, I'm
Right.
writing your workouts, but then if I'm not in true understanding of how they're going or getting feedback from you, it's impossible to make coaching decisions on what to do next unless we have a thorough understanding and can analyze what has happened by what we've been doing, correct?
Yeah.
And so really the coaching side is much more like sort of the objective look, as this is what I've been doing. How do I now reflect back and also look ahead at what is the next best move? You just bring up a good point. And for some reason, I think when I brought this up, it was more like I think in my head, I was thinking like how to write the best plan for you. But
Mhm.
coaching isn't really even the plan writing. It's just a really good
Everything
point.
from that point on.
Correct. It's everything from that point on. And that's where it gets a little bit blurry or hard. I think that's the main issue may not
Right.
be the programming itself, but what to do with how it's all going and what to do next and how to make the tweaks from
Yeah.
whatever system you choose.
And what to do next only can come from your experience or others. And until you have that experience, you have to rely on others. And that's where reading comes into play. So it kind of might sound like I'm trying to scare people away from self-coaching in order to go get coaches. And I'm not. What I am trying to scare people into doing is reading everything they can read. Because if you're going to bother with self-coaching, you might as well know everything you can possibly know. And it's so readily available. So I think that you just do what Kirk said. If you are new to this, start with your
That's who
2
I was,
quality
by the
sessions
way,
a
that's
week.
who I was speaking to. To those who are
Yes,
new to this, you're probably going to get better.
you will for
You're
sure.
correct.
But it needs to be an agreement between you and your coach that this is a holding pattern of fitness building until I have accrued enough knowledge to prescribe what comes next and know why what comes next comes next. So I do believe that, yeah, you can start with that, but you really can't consider yourself self-coached unless you're acting like a coach.
I know
And
it's
that
tricky.
means read every system.
I know it's tricky about that too. And we are so privileged to be in this position, Bracken. We've created this podcast where we get to chat with each other twice a week and really informative guests. And then what do? We also BS. I saw Anna run this week. We had a phone call that wasn't on this podcast. And I think the self-coached out there, and this is one of my pet peeves with what's actually these current episodes we've done, and I guess I'll tell you my feelings on it. Like part of me sort of regrets the Tyler German and self-reflection episodes because I've gotten so much feedback, people telling me what they think I should do. Half the athletes I work with want to cut incline treadmill workouts out of their plan
Mhm.
now. And it's like I created more work for myself. But it's a privileged position, and we chose to embrace Tyler's thoughts because the self-coached, and even though I'm a coach myself, having sounding boards is actually maybe one of the most important
Yes.
pieces of the self-coached program. And many people out there living in Timbuktu in the middle of nowhere, maybe they have a buddy or two, maybe they don't. But I think the most important thing, what did we chat about on our run this weekend together?
Predominantly your training plan.
Correct. And I am so privileged to have sounding boards like you. And so part of this, like the coaching aspect, came with us chatting this weekend on our run, right?
Yes.
Like we chatted out what maybe made sense moving forward and vice versa. And so maybe this is detracting from the point at hand, but the self coaching, I think, saying like I'm a lone wolf and these decisions are all mine. Like, no, like it's okay to ask questions and question your own thought process up to this point and try to learn more, even finding out your old ways were right or wrong. But the sounding board and chatting this out is very important too. You have
Yeah.
revelations. What happened by the end of that run? I said, I'm doing that. I have a plan. And it was very helpful. It fell in my belief system as a coach, sounded appealing, and I can get behind literally the science of what I'm going to be doing moving forward.
Yeah, and you listen to it, you thought I like it, and you by the end you're already talking about how you're going to tweak it and adapt it to really what you're going to do.
Correct.
And that's
Exactly.
what you need to know. You understood the why, you're going to go take care of the how differently than I would have taken care of the how because you're going to match it to you as an athlete.
Yeah, maybe you got to get together with your buddy for a brew after a long run on a Saturday. Hey, want to get together and let's chat about our plans or whatever it is. I just think it's vitally important to this process, I think is all I'm saying. When we
Yeah.
talk self-coach, it seems like we're excluding outside influence, and it couldn't be the opposite, more
No, it's
opposite of
not.
that. That's all.
So I'm glad you brought it up because to me that's step 3. Step 3 is you put together your proposal. That's what I always call it when I work with others. It's all right, I'm going to send you a training proposal. You're going to look through it, ask questions, tell me what needs to be changed, and then I'm going to give you the final copy. But you need to do that. And step 3 is bringing in outside eyes right from the start. So, and I actually, this is not me pimping my own business here, but I did this with someone earlier this spring. They said, I've started self-coaching. I wrote my first theoretical training blocks here. I'm starting with this. Will you just do a call with me and go over this with me? Tell me, do you see some mistakes that I'm making from the start? Hear me explain why I want to do it, and then tell me if I'm thinking incorrectly about anything.
That is
And
the
it was
majority of my consult calls are like that.
Really, I do very few of those.
That's the majority of mine.
Well, I loved it. And it was
Uh-huh.
a great conversation. And not only do I believe it was very useful to him, because I've just seen the things already many of the time that, oh, yeah, I wrote my first one just like that. But I know why that no longer will work as well. I thought that too until I found out that it does. Like, it was very helpful for him. It was also really helpful for me because it's the same thing. Like being a sounding board, it's bouncing both ways. So I
Mhm.
believe that right from the start, you have to involve someone on your first block of training. Get the mistakes out of the way before you make them. And then step 4 of that is deciding who am I going to use throughout the process to keep being that set of ears and eyes that can see through my bias and my blinders. Because admitting that you can never fully get rid of your bias and blinders is really, really important. And like you said, coaching is not a lone wolf thing. How many times do you and I say, what would you do with this athlete? Or I text
Mhm.
Rich, hey, what are you currently doing for sled work? It's constantly. I saw
Mhm.
Rich Diaz at High Rocks World Championships. And how long do you think it took before we were talking best practice for High Rocks athletes?
Oh, I figured you were chatting about 180 cadence right out of the rip, getting in
Yeah.
a fist fight about it.
No, it's like immediately we have 2 coaches there with, I think we'd both admit, some egos. And immediately we're talking, what would
Whose ego is bigger, do you think?
his is older.
So it's been growing longer.
Yeah.
It's good
Yeah,
to
it's
have a good
he
ego,
has
yeah.
more rings on the trunk of his ego. But immediately we're talking sled work and farmer's carry and what kind of running is really best bang for your buck for High Rocks. And we haven't seen each other in person in probably 4 years. And we
Yep.
made it like 60 seconds before we just had to talk shop. That's what coaches do. And you're a coach now, right? You're self-coaching. You need to do the same thing. So get eyes
Mm.
on your first plan and then get your mentor lined up right away, or mentors. Who are you going to talk to make sure that you're staying between the lines?
I very much agree with that. And you know what else I think? I think that the two camps you need to ask yourself when deciding what you're going to do, I feel like maybe this is split down the middle. I mean, I think there's a whole sector of people who are writing their own prescription right now, and they're just not doing enough on their quality days. Meaning, like I always do 12 by 400, and I'm going to do my 12 by 400, and
Mhm.
they never get out of their own box, right? And then I think there's another sector who bites off workouts that they're really not ready to chew, and they end up injured or burnt or something like that. I think
Mhm.
it's rare to find a self-coached novice athlete who's getting it right on both accounts.
Yeah.
Like some people, if you were to take me, I think if I were to have somebody look at me objectively, they'd probably have me do less. Like hold back on my pacing, hold back on my volume of quality sessions for a while, right? And so people who create a plan, I often either one bite off more than they could chew, and they create these big giant workouts that like in theory sound great because they heard us talk about them on the running public or they saw some influencer
Mhm.
do it, or two, they just like, no, I don't, of course I don't do more than 3 by a mile. Like, why would I do more than 3 by a mile? Well, because you're running a half marathon. Do you ever think about that? Maybe we should think about amping that up. And I think just scaling whatever system you choose is probably kind of the trickiest. That's what I'm really getting at, is like the
Yeah.
trickiest part of it. We talked about sort of like, an amped up threshold type block for me. And it's like, well, you could do 8 to 12 by 1,000. Well, that's a pretty big difference actually.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Well,
is
what
six.
was the 400-meter workout we were talking about that you're gonna probably do?
I did it today.
How
When
many?
I after I got
What
kicked,
range did I tell you I would probably start at if I were you?
I think you were like 20 to 24, 16 to 24, 20 to 24, I think.
20 to 24. I said you
Yeah.
should probably do for. Do you know what I'm doing for that workout?
12.
12 to 16.
Yep,
Right?
exactly. Case in point.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You can handle it. I cannot.
By the way, I really botched that one today.
You can only
I
go up.
well, I
You're 0 for
did
1.
I had to go to the pea gravel track and it was a little long, I'm pretty sure. And so my splits were behind on pea gravel, of course. So I was trying to figure out, it doesn't matter, but I think I
Yeah.
worked too hard. Move on from that.
Yeah.
But that is the point, is like deciding like, what am I ready for? And if you're one who's like scared to do more and you've been in this pattern of doing few reps for a long time or low mileage, maybe I nudge you a bit. But if you're an athlete who tends to get hurt or haven't seen a full season in a while, just because you've done 5 by a mile before, maybe you shouldn't quite yet. And so I think knowing yourself that way is very, very important. The scalability of what you pick.
It is. I almost feel like you should come up, not almost, I do feel like you should come up with a product description for yourself as an athlete and hang it on the wall. Like, I am an athlete who overtrains,
Gets hurt every 6 months.
finishes too hard on interval sessions,
Yeah.
doesn't run long runs enough, avoids core, loves hills. Like, give yourself a bullet list
Mm.
of your product description so that every time you go to make a decision on your plan, you get to look over and be like, oh, yep, that's right. I was about to do that. But what I need to do is address that and keep that in mind always, because like you said, it has to be scaled to what you need, not what you want. And it's important, I think, and we've moved past like talking about training plans, but I think it's really important to view everything in terms of writing programs and how do I progress and when do I scale and how do I scale. I think it's really important to realize that you can only change three important things about training to move adaptation, and that is intensity, volume, and frequency. Those are the only three things that matter at all in training. You can do faster running, you can do longer runs, or you can run more frequently. And the same thing happens with your workouts, your interval sessions. You can either do them faster, you can add more reps or lengthen the reps, or you can do more of them per week. Those are the only three things you need to worry about as a coach is intensity, volume, and frequency. And so as you start looking at your workouts and looking at how do I progress and how do I scale, it's very, very simple if that is your lens that you stare through for building workouts. I don't just do 12 every time and do 12 and try to get faster and try to get faster and try to get faster. If intensity is the only thing you ever modulate, you're going to run out of intensity.
Yep. 100%.
And then you have to choose one of the other two options.
I wonder if we're going to differ on an answer to this.
Okay.
I think we probably won't, but we're fundamentally different in this regard. I think about 3 weeks ahead right now, ish. 3 to 4 weeks ahead. I think I have a pretty good rough idea. Like, this will be my objective for the next Tuesday session. This will be my next objective for my long run, and I have it sorted out. You maybe not as much recently, but you've been known in the past for like these long builds, right? At least on paper, like we're going to script it out for a long time. I think I take 2 to 4 week chunks. You can take up to 16-week chunks or even bigger, right? So this leads me to ask, how often does your own coaching assessment need to happen to decide if you're on the right track or not? Meaning, how often should we be evaluating, or do you follow blindly to your own programming for 16 weeks and give it the honest crack? Or do we lay an egg in week 2 and change the program right away? Right. It's like the assessment part gets tricky. How often do you have an athlete in an overreaching phase? And we're getting to one now for some of these early fall ultras where it's like, I'm tired. A lot of my runs are dull. I'm cranky. I'm high volume and high intensity before my taper begins.
It's hot.
And you have to be like, listen, just trust me. I know it's sticky now. I know it's tough, but we have to see this through, right? Yeah. Hang on for 2 more weeks before we gradually land the plane the last 3 weeks in, and it will come together. And so point being is working on analyzing how it's going, where you're really at. Do I stick with it or do I jump ship? How often do you think that should really happen? Does it need to be formal?
I believe it does. And I believe that the answer is, again, what would you expect out of a coach you were paying? So if you're working with an athlete, how often would you recommend they check in with you face to face?
Well, I touch points every week at some point, ideally. Yeah.
And then how often do you talk? If you like perfect case scenario, we touch base weekly after things that matter.
Yep.
Tell me how your quality workout went. Something's bugging your legs. Tell me. But let's at least chat face to face if you're on the video chat plan.
I have
at least once a month.
Yeah, I have a handful on every other week, but most are once a month.
Yeah. So 2 to 4 weeks
points throughout the way. Yeah.
And that if that's what I would pay someone for, or that's what I expect of people that are paying me, I think, again, if you want to consider yourself self-coached, like, do the thing. Make notes, check in with yourself out loud during runs a few times per week, but Sit down and have a real jam session with yourself or with your sounding board at least once a month, if not every other week.
Do you ever remember a time in your athletic career where if you were feeling pretty good, having sessions you were happy with, not only like metrics aside, just like I went out there and felt good. Like I did it. It didn't waste me. I was happy with how I performed and felt my body showed up today.
Mhm.
I can't remember a training block in which I felt like that. Like the easiest systems check being like, did I feel relatively successful after my quality days? More often than not. And if the answer is yes, something is working, in my opinion. It can be
Mhm.
as vague as that. If you turn the script and say, God, I really felt like I just had to reach for everything, and I'm not feeling that accomplished or successful. I'm not clicking in my shoes afterwards with a hit of running endorphins. That's when I'm almost like, okay, it could almost be as subjective as that. Like if I felt good most of the time and was felt accomplished afterwards, I'm probably on the right track, even if I haven't time trialed, even if I haven't. And the opposite is true, is if I've felt like I'm dragging more often than not. That assessment, I think, is one of the most important and simple assessments to do. Did I look forward to what I'm about to do? Did most of it go well? And did I feel like I was somewhat in control or mostly in control while doing it?
Yeah.
And if you answer yes, what I'm doing is I'm probably striking a decent balance between volume and intensity when I'm doing. If the answer is no, then you have to think a little more critically about why and what to do from there. I don't know. Do you think that's dumbing it down too much?
I think running should be dumbed down as much as possible. And I think
Sure.
that's good. So many times I build a plan for someone and it's like, listen, I want to spend at least 4 weeks here, but we could spend 10, 12 if you're still feeling it and looking forward to it. So I'm going to program, let's say I'm going to program 6. We both have the right to pull the pin anytime after 4, and we both have the right to extend it if we feel like it's ready. And we usually make it 6 to 8 weeks, depending on the block. But sometimes it's just like I get to the end of this, we check in, and it's I want to hit that workout again. I want to go through 2 to 3 more of these sessions because I know there's more to get there, and I'm not overreaching yet. It's like, great, we're going to extend this block by another month. Let's go through this round again. I think that's a healthy way of training, especially self-coached without a team around you. If you're still getting stuff out of the workouts without having to try harder to do it, then yeah, you keep it going. Because I think the goal as an athlete is to string together as many uninterrupted weeks and months in a row as possible. And in the long-term plan, the longer you can extend out a block of training now, the more you have to still uncover later through other workouts or forms of training. So instead of me thinking, how much can I get out of this workout? I like to think it is, what can I do in this workout to be able to get more out of it again next week for the most weeks in a row possible? And I think the self-coached athlete needs to milk those micro changes in order to stay excited, because there's not someone looking over your shoulder and you may not have a team to help you out each day. So looking forward to the training is really, really useful.
Hmm. Yeah. What would be a, I mean, I have my own thoughts on this, but an example of how do I get the most out of this workout today while still being able to get the most out of next week and the next week? Is it conservative pacing expectations? Is it assigning yourself a rep count that you know is within you instead of doing 2 extra you don't, so that you're available to do it again successfully next week? Is it X, Y, and Z factor I'm not discussing? Like, what would be your example of that?
Well,
What I
let's use
outlined?
the workout we talked about. I'm doing 12 to 16. You're doing 20 to 24,
Are you doing 30 seconds rest?
30 to 45.
Okay, I did 30 today, but it was, anyways, we won't get into it.
So I have 12 to 16. Week 1, I can do 16, but I may have to work for it. Week 2, now I'm down to only 2 variables in this workout. Now I can either do them faster or I can do this workout more frequently, but I can't do any more volume in this workout. I've already tapped out to what I've said is safe for me. But if I do 12, I haven't been running, right?
Mhm.
12 reps is still going to move the needle for me. And next week, now I can either try to do 12 again, but take less damage, or do it just a hair easier than it took energy out of me last time, or I can go for 13. And then
Or
the
you,
next week, I can do that again. And the next
mhm.
week, I can do that again. But if I went to 16 right away, I've shortcut 4 weeks out of volume progression out of the build When if I'm going to benefit from 12 and I'm going to benefit from 16, ego and logic says, let's do 16. Work hard, get some. A coach would say, do less if you're still going to get better. And let's keep the ball rolling until next week and the week after and the week after. So that's what I'm talking about. Take 4 weeks to get to 16. Rather than you've been at 16 for 2 weeks, you're sick of it. Now you got to bump up to 18. Suddenly you're 6 weeks ahead of the progression, but now all you can really do is run faster.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a minor example.
No, that is probably the quintessential example right there. I don't see you work with rep count or pacing and you mess with the rest. I guess that's another progression you could talk about doing in there if you start at 45. But and would you guide people to, and this is one I'm going to tell you, I go back and forth on this. We've had discussions about this on the podcast in years past. I waffle over these super clean progressions. Brakken's going to do 12 by 400 with 45 seconds rest. He's going to do that for 2 weeks. Week 1 at pace. Week 2, he's going to try to cut off a quarter second a rep. And then in week 3, he goes to 14 and he does that. And then in week 5, he goes to 16 and he micro adjusts there. And then he goes back to 12, but now it's 30 seconds rest. And then it's, there's these progressions and the workout almost looks the same on paper every week.
Yep.
And then there's the other side, which I go back and forth, I really do, about we're getting the same work done. It might look different on paper, but it's accomplishing the same thing.
Yeah.
Do you think people should do the very linear progression? It's clear. I'm doing quarters this week and I'm doing them next week and I'm doing them the following week. Or is it 300s and 600s and similar type rest to work ratios? And do you have a thought on that for people self-prescribing?
I have thoughts, but I really don't believe it matters at the end of the day what I think. I think it's the one that you look forward to doing more.
Is what you think.
But like my preference doesn't make you a better runner. So it works for my mind to do micro changes and it holds me back from myself. Because then I can isolate one variable to focus on. And now I know that I can be successful in this workout. Whereas if I hit this workout 2 months ago and I come back to hit it now, it's just like I averaged this last time. I'm going to try to beat that this time. Mm-hmm. That might be a recipe for success and it might not be, but it's like if I just did 12 last week and now I'm going to do 14 this week, just getting 14 done is already a win. I don't have to worry about going faster. Now if I'm doing it on the treadmill, I'm not, just because I could go faster, I'm not going to actually. I'm going to tack on 2 more reps this week, knowing that when I get to this, now I get to reset and add pace to it and go through again and get a win all the way through. Because I know I could have done that pace already, but I was already getting adaptation. So for me, that works really well with my mind. But for someone to say, I'm doing 16 by 400 this week, and I'm doing 8 by 800 next week, and then I'm going to go 6 by, or whatever you're going to do from there. I'm going to run a 1, 2, 3 fartlek the week after, but at the same efforts and paces, and the recovery is going to be dialed to make me get down to the same heart rate as my interval rest was. That works great too. And I think it's kind of like seasons of life for me. If I'm in a point where I'm just sick of these intervals, that is 100% what I'm doing. And I've worked with some athletes. There's one guy I worked with last year who said, I hate structured intervals like that. Give me a ladder, give me a fartlek. I will do anything you ask. If you tell me to run the same distance back to back to back, I'm going to hate it and it's going to go poorly. It's like, then yeah, fartleks and ladders are your best workout and I won't hear anything else. Even if I would never do that. So I believe in the training you believe in, as long as it's within the confines of the engine work we were trying to accomplish. It's personality stuff, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And maybe you don't know what your tendencies are until you get through some of these workouts and realize what you look forward to and what you loathe. Right. So you might get it wrong, and you very well probably will get it wrong in some capacity, or you'll misfire on a workout or overswing or underswing or do less or more than you should. And you're never going to, don't expect perfection, I think is what I'm getting at.
I agree. And I'm going to use something you said before about using spice. I would way rather start bland and add a little bit of spice and flavor to my food each week than eat something super flavorful week 1 and then chase that feeling the rest of my year. And so when in doubt, I will give myself bland workouts, knowing that, well, when you get tired of this, all the good stuff is waiting. rather than you were excited to start your training block and you gave yourself all the exciting stuff. And now as your enthusiasm wanes also, all we can do is like step backwards. So I always start again, all I do is play mind games, but I always start with the blasé stuff and then move up to fancy.
It's really good advice. Um, I'm sure you listening could be just or equally or even more confused than when we started this thing. And that's okay. It's okay to be confused and not have answers to what the heck to do. We have to leave it at that for today, though.
Okay.
The point isn't to design you a training plan. The point is to help you understand how to decide on what to approach and then how to analyze, how to yeah, move forward objectively, I would say. Do you want to add anything else? Otherwise, I'm at time, unfortunately.
Yeah, I just like a TBD note here that we really just glazed right over the which plan do you choose and what plans are out there, like what systems exist. And if you don't know them, again, maybe pump your brakes on the the coaching until you learn them. But part 2 of this might need to be that we get on here and give a Cliff Notes version of all the plans we think are reasonable for the everyman athlete, and then give you some reading material to go work your way through while you're doing your cookie cutter little basic training. And I don't say that in a bad way. That's great training. So maybe we do need to just spend some time next week.
Yeah, it might be helpful.
Giving the options.
All right. I like that.
Okay.
All right. Well, we'll see you folks later this week, won't we?
I'm going to miss you this weekend, Kirk.
You are?
I would not have run 12 without you, and I'm going to miss having that.
Start Brakken. See ya.